the game because obviously it was a great game, 35-16 to Chicago. Fred, before we have let Ben have his mega moment, talk about Caleb Williams. Just what did you think of the game? I have to say off the bat, we spoke about the Vikings atmosphere. I said to Ben, I think the Bears fans were better than Buffalo last season. I think it was the best atmosphere that I've been a part of at a London game. But what did you make of the game itself? Obviously, Caleb had a fantastic day, and it was again another step in his development, right?
That's really good to hear that it was such a great atmosphere because I have a bit of a soft spot for the Chicago Bears because when they came over last time, I did the same thing as well. I was going to some of the pubs and stuff like that, made some friends with some Chicago Bears fans we're keeping contact with now, and we message every now and then regarding Bears and stuff. And then I went to Chicago this summer, and I really, really enjoyed it. It's probably my favorite American city I've been to. So the
You were
Bears
inducted
are
into the Hall of Fame, weren't you?
Say again?
You
I
were
was
inducted,
inducted to the
yeah.
Hall of Fame. Yes, I was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Yeah, you're very right. Or I paid the $70 entry fee and got to have a little knockabout. But there's always time for my jacket. It could be lost in the post. I mean, I for this game on paper, it actually looks very close, but it wasn't. The eye test
No.
it wasn't close. Like this really showed like Caleb coming into his own, I think. And it was definitely sort of there's been doubts of some of the players on this team, DeAndre Swift and Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet I've got in two fantasy leagues, so I was like all in on him before the season started. And it's been a slow start for both of them in the first two games, but slowly they've got there and they're back into their fighting form. And it was definitely something where you could argue was it the Bears being really good or the Jags being really bad, but I think the Bears still showed that they've got some fight in this team. 373 total offensive yards and 152 with 152 rushing yards in there. Like that shows an identity to this team and shows what they're going to be about and want to be about. So I'm really really happy for them. I mean, it's tough watching for the Jacksonville Jaguars at the minute. We made a few jokes about Doug Pederson on our WhatsApp, and I said that maybe he'll be in London a little bit longer than the Jags coming here on holiday. And then someone said that maybe he'll be maybe he'll be in Jacksonville before the Jags because he'll be happy to be sent back. So it's tough viewing, but you must be massively happy, Ben. It really showed. I think like, I've reiterated is that there was doubters with Caleb, wasn't there, in the first few games? I think that was started to creep in within the
This
media
is
and
your
some
moment,
people's
Ben.
minds.
Caleb, two touchdowns to Kmet, two touchdowns to Keenan Allen.
Mm.
Go for it.
I mean, it's a good job that in the press conference you were sat in front of me. Otherwise, you'd have seen me practically swooning when Caleb came in. I was a big Caleb believer, and the first couple of games, they beat Tennessee, but really the defense won that game. Caleb didn't have anything to do with it. The following week, they lost by a touchdown against Houston. It wasn't really as close as that. Deserved win by the Texans. Still, the Bears offense couldn't get it going. The defense kept it close. The following week, things changed. So they lost to the Colts, but they really shouldn't have. They lost by less than a touchdown, and they messed it up on the goal line. They had weird play calls, and then in that final quarter of that game, the offense basically changed. They changed the game plan, and I think in that final quarter, it was something stupid like Caleb had about 150 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. And if you look at the stats from that, starting with that final quarter against Indianapolis through to now, Caleb's probably been as good as any quarterback in the NFL right now. He's broken various NFL rookie records, believe it or not, despite all the attention Jaden Daniels is getting. And Caleb has a lot more touchdowns than Jaden Daniels, again, believe it or not. Because I do so much college coverage and so much of the draft, when I hear 2 games into a season, people saying, "Oh, I don't know about this guy," I've just got my head in my hands. There was so much stuff about Caleb. Like, is he a bust? Well, no, he isn't a bust. If he is going to be a bust, we won't know in early September in his first season. But obviously, we live in a hot take culture where people want to be able to say, "Well, look, I said he was a bust," so that you can be proved right further down the line. There was a lot of growing into the role for him because with Jaden Daniels, and we'll obviously we can get on to him. They made sure it was a particularly simple sort of offense, playing to his strength. Cliff Kingsbury has done a fantastic job in making sure that he's put Jaden Daniels in those right situations. With the Bears, they straight away told Caleb, this is going to be a really complicated offense. There's going to be a lot for you to learn. There's going to be a learning curve, but we really think you can get it. And the play calling just wasn't right. It wasn't working. They changed it up at the end of that Colts game, like I say. It then improved, and then there was a little bit of a players' revolt. Certain offensive leaders confronted Shane Waldron and said, this needs to change. And Caleb led that, and they fell in behind him. He was a leader already. We're like 3 games into the season, and they're like, Caleb, we're with you. They got Shane Waldron to tweak things. All of a sudden, they're now one of the top scorers in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Weirdly, the NFC North has the 4 teams with the best point differential in the entire league. Absolutely staggering that that's happened. So the Bears are obviously one of those. The things that we saw Caleb do yesterday, and he just improves game on game. So if you were there at that game yesterday and Caleb has an incredible career, at this point at least, you've just seen the best game of his career. So at least you'll have that. Well, I remember when I saw the best game of his career.
Yeah.
Yesterday. His control of the offense is absolutely masterful. The things he was doing at certain points was outrageous. That first touchdown that Cole Kmet scored, I mean, all credit to Cole Kmet. He just would not score in that situation. But the fakes that Caleb did to make sure that Cole Kmet was wide open was absolutely insane. The sort of thing that we see Patrick Mahomes do. And I'm not going to make those comparisons in terms of talent, but we've seen when he was at USC that he does play a lot like that. He can improvise and he can sell a fake like as good as anyone in this league. Thrilling to watch. I really feel for the Jags fans. I feel for Trevor Lawrence. Doug Pederson is not long for that job. I joked on the way back from the stadium that I think the Jags should just tell him a different time that they're leaving after the Patriots game and just leave him behind.
Sorry, Doug.
I don't know. I don't know. I can't remember where the Jags are staying, but it will be somewhere lovely, and he can have a lie in that morning. Maybe he'll have breakfast in his room, and then he'll realize, oh wait, there, Shad Khan's Instagram says they've already left Gatwick. What's going on? So the Jags are in trouble, real trouble. They need a rebuild. They need a reset. It's all gone wrong. But clearly for the Bears, the arrow's pointing up. How much we can take out of a game against the Jags, same as the Panthers last week, same as the Rams before that. But what we are seeing is that when the Bears play a bad team, they are beating them up rather than just scraping by. You know, they hammered the Panthers, they hammered the Jags. Yes, both those teams are bad, but you've got to hammer them to really show anything. And they did. It was enjoyable as a Bears fan. It was enjoyable just as a journalist being able to see a quarterback like Caleb develop in that way, growing up right in front of us. Brilliant game, brilliant atmosphere. Like you said, Sky, I agree it was better than the Bills. We're seeing something change in these London games. We're seeing more Americans come to the games. And Sky, when you were in the bar with me on Thursday, it was even busier Friday and Saturday.
It's not a novelty anymore. Yeah, it was just like a massive cohort of Bears fans.
Yeah, it was like 75% Americans in the bar. Like it was so many came over, and we're seeing fewer neutral fans go to those games. I don't know if that's partly a cost thing that people think, okay, well, look, getting into those games at Tottenham especially is so expensive. I'm not going to go to this game. Hopefully in 2 years' time, my team's going to go and I'll push the boat out and I'll go to that. But it meant that it really felt like you were at a Bears home game. So the noise was loud. When the Jags had third down, it was loud. When the Bears scored, it was loud. And then when the Jags scored a consolation touchdown, you could have heard a pin drop.
Yeah, that was weird.
It was eerily quiet. And we were kind of looking around like, this is odd. This is like it's like an odd chill came over the place. And then they went for the 2-point conversion. The Bears broke that up. And then it got loud again because that had happened. So I'm not only excited about the Bears going forward, I'm even more excited about the London games going forward. Because I think they have evolved into something else now, and they feel more like going to a game in America. I realize I've just talked for about 28 minutes non-stop, but I was in a flow, and I don't take that as an apology. It was just a statement that I'm acknowledging what I did.
As long as you're
But no,
self-aware, that's all that matters. Yeah, that's more people need to be self-aware. But no, you nailed it. And I think I went to the two Patriots games, obviously 09 Bucks and then the Rams one. And because the Patriots at the time, they were probably one of only few teams until this more recent times where you've had that feel of it might be a big following of fans coming over. But yeah, a lot of games, I know players get asked about it, but it's, there's different colour jersey, whatever. And that is nice. It's a different atmosphere for them. But it was something unique about yesterday. It was great to be a part of, like, actually, Chicago Bear fans have come over. They want to support their team. As you said, we've got to see almost the arrival of Caleb Williams, because everyone, you hit the nail on the head again. I know it was the Panthers and the Jags, but these are still professional teams. And if you don't make those big statement wins, then people straight away go, oh, well, he's had a rough start. So it was great to see. I did want to just sort of hone in on the Cole Kmet thing. And Fred, we were talking on the train back yesterday, and I know me and Ben spoke about Kmet, and it almost felt like people forget that he's only still 25. And because of the Bears having the weapons that they do with Keenan Allen getting involved and Adunze and Swift in the run game, almost feels like he has an opportunity now to establish himself as a top 10 tight end or maybe higher, because he's young, he's got the talent. And like on that first touchdown, like Ben said, he was just bulldozing his way into the end zone. You think this was like, people talk about Keenan Allen's breakout game and Caleb, but do you feel like he might go on to become a big focal point of his offense?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've always said that I've always looked at tight ends within teams that have a rookie quarterback, because that's why I've taken him into fantasy leagues, and kept him, I suppose, because they need a safety valve. Rookie quarterbacks need one player that they go, right, short yardage, if it gets me out of trouble. The quick read, maybe they can't do the reads quick enough, but they know that their tight end's going to be open, or is at least capable enough, strong enough to keep hold of the ball and fight for them yards. And Cole Kmet is one of them tight ends. He fights for the yards. He's big, he's strong, he's agile, and he's got great hands on him. So I can expect him to be used even more. Like Ben was saying, with Caleb really coming into his own in this game, he may not need the safety valve option now if he's feeling more at home in this offense and more at home with the players around him. But it's still good to have that. It's still worth that, having that when you're a rookie quarterback. And Kmet has been that for several young quarterbacks, at Chicago. So yeah, he's going to continue to keep rising. I think he's a really capable, really capable tight end. And moving forward with Caleb in this whole offense, Keenan Allen's a little bit older. We don't really know how long he is going to be in Chicago for. This could just be a passing visit and then gets moved on again, maybe. DJ Moore seems to be, the guy for the guy that's going to be there for a fair few years. Rome Odunze is obviously massively the guy for the future as well. And being 25, Cole Kmet, if he's fit and stays healthy, which he tends to, he could have an even longer career alongside Caleb Williams, who, like we said, the trajectory is going at now. The sky's the limit for this kid. So I can only see his stock going up and up and up, really.
Ben, just before we move on very briefly on the Jags, because I don't want to bore everyone by talking about them too much, but in terms of Kmet being 25, is obviously Jalen Jones, Kyler Gordon. We spoke about the injuries in the secondary yesterday, but when you've got guys like that who are both, I think one's 24, one's 25, then you've got your Kevin Byards and Tremaine Edmonds, those veteran guys. Just how confident are you in terms of the defense going forward? Because, of course, we can all sit here and it is sort of the media thing to talk about. Even the pressers yesterday, I'm sure you'll agree, all of the questions were directed around Caleb. Even Keenan Allen, who's caught 2 touchdowns, no one really acknowledged the fact that he made those 2 plays almost. It was kind of weird. So, yeah, how do you feel about the rest of the roster and just that balance?
The defense. So it got me thinking while I was watching the Ravens Commanders game and Roquan Smith, and how he was such an important player for the Bears, and people were aghast when they moved him on to the Ravens. Now, he wanted a huge extension, and the Bears' attitude was, for the offense we play, we're not going to invest that much money in a middle linebacker. If someone's got a defense where the middle linebacker is going to be such a focal point, then fair enough. But that's not going to be us. So they moved him on. The Bears got immediately worse afterwards. The Ravens got better. He was making so many tackles. And then the Bears did what they wanted to do, which was to bring in Montez Sweat. And I don't recall many times where one defensive player coming in has changed the entire defense. And there are only certain positions that will do that. And if all of a sudden you add an elite edge rusher who's getting double teamed on every play, all of a sudden you've generated pass rush, and the Bears were not getting any pass rush. So if, like, any Bears fan, if they could have Montez Sweat or Roquan Smith, as much as they loved Roquan Smith and the way that he was talking about he wanted to be a Bears middle linebacker for life, there's no better place to be a middle linebacker than the Chicago Bears. No one's got that history. Everyone's going to take Montez Sweat. He changed everything.
Yeah.
But beyond that, there's a young core. The secondary is great. They ended the game with 3 starting members of the secondary out injured, but the level of play was still really high. And it's what I think it's the fact it's young and it's been built sensibly. The only aspect of the team that has got me worried going forward is the offensive line. They've had a lot of injuries, and I think there's a lack of talent there. I think they've drafted the wrong people at times. They've had to move people around so much because of injuries. They're actually finding better combinations than when people were in their quote unquote natural position. So I think Bears fans will be excited right now, but they've got to also accept that they're in the toughest division in football. They're still probably the 4th best team in that division, and they've got a really difficult second half of the season. They've still got to play all their divisional games. And I don't think they have their first divisional game until something stupid like week 10. So it's going to be a wild finish to the NFC North because of the way that they're all going to meet at the end. So everything's a bit skewed at the moment. It's the first time since the 2002 realignment that we're in week 6, and a division has got 4 teams with 4 or more wins. But that's in part because they haven't played each other. Because obviously when they play each other, at least one of those teams is going to get a loss. So that's going to even itself out. So a lot of this talk about, can 4 teams make it from the NFC North? Mathematically, yes, but it's unlikely. We'll see where we are. But yeah, it's arrows pointing up for the Bears, but it will get difficult come mid-November.
Fred saw me smirk there with that 0-2 stat. Oh, so usually me. I'm usually the stats guy. That was great. Loved it.
I'm glad you appreciate that one.
I was there for in one word. I'm going to ask just on the Jags before we move on. If Doug Pederson loses against the Patriots, does he get fired?
Yes.
Yes, for sure.
Dramatic pause there, Fred. I like to know.
I didn't know whether you wanted me to answer as well. Ben's the guest. I thought Ben's the guest. He can. I thought you might move on after that. You might not want mine. So.
Of course I do. But yeah, just a quick roundup of.